All right, what's up, everybody? We are back with another episode of The Jungle. I apologize to all my online peeps. We tried to do the live this morning, and Mark Zuckerberg has it out for us. So, guys, with me today, I have Gary Baddeley. Gary is the former business development outreach manager for Hilltop Recovery in Akron. He was actually just recently promoted to operations director. Um, I decided to have Gary on. He reached out to me. He's one of the guys that has started following me and following the show after I had a couple people, his colleagues, on throughout the last couple months. And he's got a really great story. He's come a long way. He's gotten custody of both of his kids. Both of his oldest kids are athletes, which we're going to touch just a little bit on that because I got a heart for dads, football dads and athlete dads. But guys, this is Gary. Gary, go ahead and say hi to everybody.
Hi guys, how you doing?
All right, Gary. So what we'll do is just regular format, man. We'll get into it. Why don't you just kind of tell everybody who you are, where Gary grew up at, kind of what your childhood was like.
Yeah. So we already know my name. My name is Gary Baddeley. I grew up in Alliance, Ohio, and I say grew up in Alliance, Ohio, but really I was just born there. My childhood was kind of crazy. I came from like a long line of hard partying, hard drinking family members, and I probably went to 16 or 17 different schools total. So when I say Alliance, that's like my hometown. That's where my roots are. But I've been everywhere from North Carolina, West Virginia, Southern Ohio. We moved around a lot, mainly because my stepdad was a drug addict, and he would start these fake construction businesses, and he would get like fronts on money for a job, and then he would use that money to smoke crack, and then we would have to hurry up and run and hide in a different town. So I moved around a lot as a kid. I also thought that using drugs and stealing and lying to people and things of that nature were like a normal life. I thought that's what normal people did. And I thought like if you worked a regular job and you were a teacher or a welder or somebody in the community, that you were like an alien. Like I felt like those were the weirdos, and all the criminals and the drug addicts were the normal people.
Wild, man. And I only want to touch on this briefly because nobody, and I don't know how familiar you are with generational curses, but
Yeah,
that's exactly what that is, man. Like you got caught in this mindset that you were raised in, and people don't understand when you raise a child and that's all they know. So
right.
like you as a child, that was all you knew. It's wild that people don't break those curses, and then it just continues generation after generation, man.
Yeah, and we're also while we're in that, we're closed minded to any other type of thinking. So
Yeah.
it takes a crazy event, a catalyst to kind of set off a fire that will change that thinking. But yeah, so that was a real weird way to grow up, and I'm briefly going to touch on this, not because I want to have like a sob story or nothing like that, but the same stepfather that was a drug addict and has bouncing all around was also very physically, emotionally, and sexually abusive to my sister and I. So I touch on that because I feel like it played a part in my later drug addiction and my alcoholism because it bred a lot of shame and remorse and self pity. So yeah, it was a crazy childhood. I didn't really fit in with anybody. Moving around so much, I was always the new kid. I was the new weird kid. I've always been kind of weird. I'm still weird, but today I embrace it.
Hey,
And
weird's okay, man. Weird's
yeah,
okay.
and I think around like 13 or 14 years old, I noticed all the different cliques at school, and there was like the jocks and the country kids and the athletes and the rapper guys and the rock guys, and they were all different groups of people. And me being like the most unpopular popular kid ever in history, I wanted to have friends. And I noticed the one guy that all those people liked was the weed guy, the guy that sold weed. So I decided at a young age I wanted to figure out how to get into that business and that line of work, and I did. And started doing that and started drinking at a young age. Started running away from home because, like I said, it was kind of like an abusive atmosphere, and I was just got sick and tired and fed up with it, and I started running away, getting arrested, going to jail, just wild. Without like going into too much detail, like just to kind of fast forward into the alcoholism piece. By the time I was 16, I had to have 2 camos or 2 steel reserves a day just to get through the day. Now that's like a 24 ounce of the most raw gut beer known to man, and even then I thought that was normal. And I look at my 17-year-old son today and I just like try to imagine him needing that to get through a day, and it just breaks my heart. Like, so I've had talks with the child version of myself, like telling him like, it's okay, man. Like, you know, that you went through those things. That's not who you are today. But, yeah,
Man, there's so many, and it's funny too, because there's so many times I'll sit back and I do the same thing. I look at my kid and I'm like, thinking about my kid at the lowest points of what I was at, or thinking about my kid using stuff. It was funny, man. He's in college, and
yeah.
I'm just going to do this real quick, not to cut you off. So
No, you're good.
but he is not a partier, man. Like, he saw me go through the ringer, you know. So he's not a big partier. He'll drink like some wine every once in a while when he goes out, but that's like the extent of everything.
Yeah,
And he sent my wife, and it's funny because when he does that shit, he doesn't text his friends. He texts me, and he texts my wife, which is his stepmom, and we have
yeah,
conversations all night. You know, we have a great relationship. And it clicked the one night. It was a couple weeks ago, and he was out with his girlfriends. They were out going like college hopping or whatever, and he sent me a bottle of it was a picture of a bottle of wine on the counter,
yeah.
and my head immediately went to, he's isolating and drinking in his apartment. That's not, and I immediately, my heart was like breaking, and I'm like, he lives in an apartment in one of our old rentals. It's above my mother. And I immediately call, it's like 10:30 at night. And I wake my mom up out of bed. I'm like, Mom, I need you to go upstairs and see if Chris is like upstairs, like by himself drinking. And she's like, what? And she's like freaking. She's like, what? And I'm like, and she's like, honey, his car's not here. And here he was out with his friends.
Yeah, just
I
living a
expect them to do
social,
shit.
normal life. Yeah,
Yeah, I expect him to do shit like that. He's 19 years old, but
yeah.
I threw myself back into, and my heart was breaking. I'm like, God, if he's up there doing that already, like, so yeah, man.
And he's just out having a glass of wine,
He's just
playing
out
beer
having a
pong.
glass of wine with his girlfriend and her friends. Yeah,
Yeah, it's wild that we go. Well, two things. It's wild that that's where our mind goes, which is it's probably a blessing because that
yeah,
means that means
aware.
we've grown and we're away from that.
Yeah,
And also it's a gift to know that we can be someone there for our kids to kind of help them guide them if they start to get into trouble in that direction.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
that's awesome, man. So yeah, I that was just the cycle of life. And then I want to
So
say
you were at 2 steel reserves a day, and you were. I know I
thank you.
cut you off, man. I have a habit of doing that, so I'll try and round it back when I do that.
No,
Sorry.
no, that's what it means to have a conversation, bro. We got to jump in and out with each other.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was there, and I'm a person that my life improved and I recovered through Alcoholics Anonymous, and I probably I don't know. You're not supposed to talk about that on press or films but it's part of my story. So,
No, yeah, you're good.
the first time I was introduced to that was I was 17 years old, and it was the first real trouble I got into as well. There was a store in Alliance called Value City, and Value City was kind of like a Burlington coat factory of the day. They would have like name brand clothes that maybe had a stitch in the wrong place or something, and they were a little bit cheaper.
Yeah.
Da, da, da. Well, my supplier had wanted a pair of shoes that was at that store, and he told me that if I went in and got these shoes, that he would trade me for some more pot to go out and sell the pot. So went in the store, got the shoes inside my coat, got to the door. When I got to the door, there was this lady on a payphone there at the door, looked like a regular customer or whatever, and I got one foot out the door, and she turned around and grabbed me by my arm, and she said, "Freeze." And I said, "No, bitch, you freeze." And I punched her in her face and took off.
Oh, fuck.
So side note, I'm not somebody that ever thought of myself as someone that was a woman beater or was against women or anything like that. Like, and when that happened, I justified that by saying I didn't hit a woman, I hit a cop. They're asexual. Because I thought anything law enforcement was evil, and I couldn't stand it, and they weren't going to get in my way ever. My earliest memories of law enforcement was me sitting on my dad's lap trying to hold him down on the couch so that the cops couldn't handcuff him and take him away.
Yeah.
So,
well, but I mean, and again, going back to like generational curses that we talked about, you're a product of your environment, dude. That's how you were raised. It's no, if you were never taught any different, you don't know any better, you know?
Exactly. And today, like, I'll skip ahead in my story to say that due to my recovery and sponsorship and things of that nature, now if I have any interaction with a police officer at all, passing him, going into a gas station, getting a speeding ticket, searching my car for the 12th time, even though I've been clean for almost 6 years, whatever it is, I have to look at that police officer in the eye and mean it and say, "Thank you for your service."
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And through doing that, I realized that they're just people, and they're just like everybody else. And I don't have that resentment for law enforcement anymore. I'm not going to run out and sign up for the confidential informant Mickey Mouse Club or nothing crazy like. But I don't have that hatred for them anymore.
Yeah.
So anyway, I get in the parking lot after I hit the security person, and there was cops already there in the parking lot, and they clotheslined me, handcuffed me, drug me back in the store, and then they took me off to jail. And when I got to the juvenile detention center, I met with an attorney, and the attorney said that I could either go to DYS, which was like a juvenile penitentiary, for I think it was 3 to 5 years, because the shoplifting had been elevated to a robbery, or I could admit to having a drug problem, and I could go to a place called NORCAT, which was like a juvenile treatment center. So that was a no-brainer, either 5 years or 6 months, you know. So yeah. I went to the treatment program, and when I went there, I didn't want to be different. I didn't want to be sober. I still thought like those people were aliens. I thought it was just earning my stripes, so to speak.
Yeah.
And yeah, I didn't get anything out of that other than I had to memorize some 12 suggestions from a recovery program and recite them to get released. And I met a guy named Bob, and Bob would come in on the weekends, and he would do a puppet show for the kids. He was from the church, and as corny as that sounds, Bob had like a glow about him, and he seemed happy and he seemed content. And in a previous life, Bob was the kind of guy that would piss himself and pass out at the bar and then steal all his wife's bill money to go smoke crack with it. And like,
yeah.
And so what I got from that program is that there was maybe a chance that I didn't have to be the person that I was in that moment. But as soon as I got released, I manipulated my mom into telling my probation officer I was moving to North Carolina, and went right back to doing what I was doing. And yeah, it was crazy. It was turbulent. I got arrested again a couple years later for stealing a car trailer. I was charged with grand theft, and I got put on probation for that. And when I got put on probation, I of course couldn't maintain probation because I'm an addict and an alcoholic. So I was using and trying to fake the drug test and things of that nature. It got to be too much. I went on the run. And when I went on the run, I ran into a girl I knew from high school, and I shacked up with her because I knew no one knew that I knew her, and hid out at her house. Long story short, it led to my arrest, and it led to my first prison number. When I went to prison, I went to Belmont Correctional Institution down in St. Clairsville, Ohio. And I pretended like I was a tough guy, but to be honest, I was scared to death that entire time. Like from the Lorraine, where they strip you down and they search you and they pack you in that room with like 40 guys, and like,
yep.
It was just a terrifying experience. As a matter of fact, since I've been released, I heard an advertisement for a TV show called Naked and Afraid on Discovery Channel, and it was about like people in the jungle, like, and I thought they were talking about Lorraine Correctional Institution. Like, so, uh, so yeah. Long story short, I still think everybody's alien. I think I'm supposed to be a drug dealer and kidnap people and all that stuff. And I'm doing my time there. And
Hey, Gary, move your hand off the camera. There
sorry
you go.
about that.
Oh, you're good.
So I'm doing my time, and mail comes around. And when mail comes around, I pick the envelope up, and a picture falls out on my rack. And I look down at the picture, and I felt every feeling I've ever felt and every feeling I've never felt all at the same time. And I knew I wasn't father. Like, as soon as I made eye contact with the picture of that little person's eyes, I knew that was my son. And in that moment, for the first time in my life, I wanted to be different. I didn't want to be like all these people that I grew up around. I wanted to be the one thing that I never had, and that was a good father. And I made a decision to change in that moment. And I had these fantasies in my head of getting out and marrying his mom, and we're going to have the white picket fence, and I was going to raise the kid, and it was going to be all great.
I had those too, and it works out better on the back end that doesn't happen.
Right. So I wanted to be different, but I came home and I wasn't different because I'm not making excuses for the things I did when I came home from prison. But when you come home from prison, your opportunities are shrunk down a whole lot, like a whole lot. So I probably would have did better with opportunities if I didn't go right back to drinking and using, for one. But the other thing is when you're trying to find employment to take care of a fiance and a child, and then she had other children, and the only jobs you can get at the time were paying $7 an hour because of your record,
washing dishes, or
man,
it's
it
hard,
was
dude.
it was real easy to fall back into just selling drugs. Like, it was just easier. Like, I don't have any explanation for it other than desperation was a big catalyst to going back to doing the stuff that I was doing.
Hey, I wanna just do a sidebar on this real quick because I want to let everybody out there know that, I mean, obviously that's part of the reason that I started this website and this show is to let people know you have options. But like where Gary got tied up coming home, there ever since COVID, when COVID hit, Governor DeWine passed through the Ohio state legislation that you can have actually up to 5. Now, I mean, in like your case, well, I don't know what your felonies are. It doesn't matter. I know mine can't be because mine are all F2s.
Yeah.
But certain amounts of felonies you can have now expunged up to 5 felonies. Gary lives in Akron, Ohio. Akron, the University of Akron, which I've been meaning to get somebody on here from there, they actually have a program through their law school that they will actually work pro bono to get your felonies expunged. At my last job, I had a couple girls come through that had felonies, and the place that I worked, it was toxic. Everybody always wanted out, and they always had felonies, and they were like, "But I can't do anything." So I started doing research because I've always been I want to see you grow type manager. I don't want you here where you're going to be stagnant for the next 10 years. I want to help you get out. And so I found University of Akron, and I had a couple conversations, and the one girl actually went down to University of Akron and got, I believe it was 3 like F4s expunged. You can have up to 5, I believe now. I was just on a call with an attorney yesterday because I was trying to get mine done. But University of Akron will do that for free if you are a Summit County resident. You just contact their law department. Go from there. So just so everybody knows, so you have options. And that's, again, that's part of the reason that I wanted to put all this out there, like as far as the website, because Gary came home and he had you're having to take dishwashing jobs. You're having to take bullshit ass jobs. And it's all that does is it pisses you off at the system. It makes you mad at society. It makes you mad. And you don't learn. You can't. That's why I got into truck driving, because it's outside of the management job that I had, it's another job where felons can easily transition into. You're already in a truck by yourself all day, and it's a good living. You can make a lot of money for you to support your family. And that's the number one thing. When you start feeling worthless, when you start feeling like you can't provide for your family, of course you're going to go back and start selling weed again, dude. Like,
Yeah.
of course you're going to turn back to the only shit that you know how to do, you know?
Yeah.
So I'll be throwing. I have to update the website. I'll throw the University of Akron, their law programs links up on the website webuildmonsters.org. But again, Gary, go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No,
So you're back. You're back to
that's
you're
not an
back to selling.
interruption.
You're back to selling weed. Let's roll.
All right. So, other than that, another sidebar is I'm gonna do some research while I'm in Akron and try to find the people that need connected with, and then I'm gonna connect you with that information to share with people in the future too.
Yeah, no, you and I need to. I
Yeah.
think this will be a good relationship to have, you and I, because I mean, you've got some stuff you want to do in the future. I think you're working at Hilltop Recovery House now. I want to start something like that, but more geared towards felons. And I'm working on like a 501(c) and a nonprofit and things like that. So we're
Okay.
going to continue this relationship after, but
Right on.
we'll stay in contact and get everything linked up. So
Right on. So, yeah, dude, I'm excited for helping people together in the future and helping each other.
yeah.
So yeah, I didn't go back to selling weed. I guess graduated and I started selling cocaine. And that after being in prison and having the experiences that I had, I was paranoid all the time that I was gonna be getting locked up again at any moment. Alliance, Ohio is known as like a snitch town. Like so as I'm there, like every day I would get out and go hit the street. I'd be like, oh, today's going to be the day. Today's going to be the day someone wires up on me. And that led to being frozen and like scared to even move my product to where I just started using all my product. And
I was going to ask you about that because that's
yeah.
usually when the weed man turns to cocaine, it's not too long before the weed man's doing the cocaine and the cocaine's not last like
it never
cocaine
ends good.
was.
It never ends good. There's a lot of movies about stuff like that, and a lot of people only pay attention to the first half of the movie. They don't recognize at the end of the movie that guy's either dead or in jail. Like there's never. So yeah, sitting there stuck, sitting on a pile of stuff that I'm afraid to move to anybody because I'm afraid to go back to prison. I ended up using the stuff, and I mean, there's a long story of back and forth and stuff spiraling out of control again, but I'm not going to hit every detail of that. But I got super depressed. I got super isolated. My son's mom got pregnant again. We had another son that was about to be on the way. We were living in a house that barely had running water. I freaked out. I became an IV drug user. It never seemed like there was going to be any hope for anything to get any better. And I was afraid to. I couldn't find any real employment. At the same time, I was afraid to hustle, so to speak. I just wanted to find a way to continue to feed my habit, and the way to do that, I thought the logic that I use is I can't sell drugs, I can't steal, I can't do this, I can't do that. I'll just make my own drugs, and I learned how to manufacture crystal meth, and that was both the worst thing that ever happened to me and ironically the best thing that ever happened to me because through the trouble that I got into from that, it gave me the best life that I've ever imagined in recovery. But yeah, eventually got caught with some stuff, some chemicals, and I went back to prison and I went to Marion Correctional Institution. And as soon as I got to Marion, I was like, I'm going to do something different. So I signed up for all the different recovery programs there. I was going to different church gatherings. I was doing AA, NA, CA. I didn't even gamble, but I was doing Gambling Anonymous. I was doing anything recovery focused. I was doing it because I didn't want to be the way that I had always been. And I don't know. Something in me was broken for a long time. I can't explain it other than I am an addict and an alcoholic. But the day I got released from prison, my friend picked me up, and a half hour into the drive, I had her pull over at a gas station. I got 2 tall boys of beer and a pack of cigarettes, and went right back to doing what I've always done. And the thing about prison and institutions and stuff is it's almost like the system's designed for us to do that. They say that if once you have a number, there's like something crazy astronomical, like 90 something percent chance you're going back within like 5 years.
It's actually 87. I have the statistics up on my site. I think it's 87% within 10 years return to prison. Yeah.
That's just bonkers to me. Like I feel like maybe as a society we're changing that and treating things.
We are. If you look at, I had a really great guest on here. His name's Michael Pritchard. He's a DOT SAP, which is he monitors truck drivers for drug and alcohol abuse, but he also works hand in hand with the Fresno State Board of Mental Health as a consultant. And what they're doing out in California is they're adapting the Norwegian prison system out there at, I believe it's two of the big prisons right now. He told me the one, it was something like I don't remember. It was one of the big prisons out there, but what they do is it's like multi-tiered level facilities where, say you have 10 years, you spend 3 years of your time behind bars, but you spend those 3 years of your time behind bars working programs, meeting with counselors, meeting with like being in groups and you're mandated. It's not this shit of you go down and, hey, we've got an AA meeting over in the chow hall tonight if you guys want to sign up on the board and go over. It's none of that shit. It's you have a case plan the second you get down there. And then, after those 3 years, they push you to what would be considered like dormitory living. So for like those next 3 years, you're in dorms where you have to integrate with other prisoners and you have to learn how to, and you have a job the whole time. Like you're constantly made to work. And then like the last part of your bit, they have small communities on the compound that are behind another fence where you might have a coffee shop and a woodworking shop and it's a self-sufficient community where you are paid a fee for working every day and you're taught to manage your money. You are taught how to interact in society. They'll let your family come in those last, say, like 3 years, the last part of your bit. These guys go in and they're actually only behind bars like 3 or 4 days a week. They let these guys leave. Now, this is over in Norway. This isn't out in California yet, but they let those guys leave. Yeah, like 3 to 4 days a week. They can go home. They can spend those days with their family and reintegrate with their family. Then they all have like family counseling time, like where the wife is afraid that the husband's going to do A, B, or C. And so they have to have like counseling together. It's actual reintegration and reform. It's not this, we're going to throw you in a fucking jail cell for 10 years. And then, hey, here's your $200 gate pay. We'll put you in a halfway house for 6 months, which is probably full of drug addicts. And you're going to fuck up and be back here in 5 weeks.
Yes.
So.
Well, that, and also when they throw you out there like that, I never did like a series like this tells you how like mentally damaging and emotionally damaging being incarcerated is. I never did no 10 years. I did 12-month stretches. You know what I mean? And that sounds like a small amount of time, except for and it is a small amount of time in the grand scheme of life, I guess. But when you go in, you're shell shocked because like it's a culture shock, severe bad culture shock, right? And it's like the worst thing that ever happened to you. And then when you get released, it's the same thing. Like you think it's a great and happy day, and it is. But like my first number, I came home, and I remember the night I got home, I was at my sister's house. I stayed the night there, and it was dark. It was all the way dark in the living room. Like there was no overhead light with the fan going, right? And it was so quiet. And the Chase lounge that I was laying on was so soft and comfortable, and the blanket was so warm, and I felt so safe that I started to cry. Like, because that whole year prior, it was. I don't care how tough you are or whatever. Every day you wake up in the joint, you're on some type of eggshells. You don't know what's going to pop off. You don't know when's this going to go. There's never a moment of quiet. If it is quiet, it means something bad's about to happen.
You hear crickets, man, and you just climb in your rack and fucking make sure your shoes are laced up.
In, dude. Get yourself a book. It's story time. Like people don't. I don't think people realize how like it's almost like going to war in a way. Like I'm not going to compare it to being a veteran, as in like we're not seeing, but I feel like it's similar. The PTSD.
Well, it's the thing. It's, dude. It still works on your norepinephrine and your fight or flight, and then it's you're constantly walking around with your cortisol levels elevated through the roof, and it's just a stressful. it's a stressful ass environment, man, and it's
Yeah.
24/7. So yeah, it's comparable.
Yeah. So we yeah, I don't want to stay stuck on that for too long, but I'm glad that we're moving in a direction of actually rehabilitating people instead of just giving them PTSD and sending them on their way.
Yeah, man, I know too many guys that come home with no options. I've spoken to a few of them now. I'm talking to two currently that are in halfway houses out here. And it's sad, dude, because like I came home and I had a support system.
Okay.
I had my mom and my sister who were there the whole time I was down, who made it very clear to me that, if I fuck up, they're still gonna love me. They're gonna keep me at arm's length like they had been, but they'll
Yeah.
still love me, and when I decide to come around. So I had a good support system. But I talked to some of these guys and they're coming home and they're like, they have nothing. I'm talking to a guy right now. He can't read. He can't write. He's like 46 years old, and he's like, he said, he wants to change. I will say I haven't spoke to him yet. He got my number from actually one of my doctors who
Okay.
listens to the podcast. But the doctor was telling me, he said he can't read, can't write. And he was asking me, he's like, do you have any jobs that you could maybe get this guy into? And I'm sitting here racking my brain and I'm like, so this guy's like 40-some years old. I'm like, he obviously has no family that's willing to help him at this point. He's finally made the decision that he wants to change.
Right.
But you have no life skills. You have no support system. You have nobody to help you, and like it's hard, man. And the state's not going to help you,
No. Well, I think we're going to help people like that, Chris.
Well,
I
yeah,
think,
and that's the whole point of all this, yeah. But
yeah. So there's I've noticed working in recovery that there's no guys come home and they'll call me because I just give my number out to everybody, right?
I
For
do too.
someone
Yeah.
and they'll call me and be like, "Hey, I heard you were a guy that can get a guy into a place to get him some help," and the answer is always yes. And they say, "All right, well, I've been down for like 3 years, and I just got out today, and I just need somewhere to go, and I have insurance." Is what they always say that right away, and I'm like, so it's so hard because like they've been clean a year of that 3 years that they were down, right? They've tried to turn their whole life around. And the only way to get them approved for some type of treatment program is if they've recently been struggling with
Yep.
drugs.
Yep.
And long story short, through all these calls I get, I'm like, there needs to be some type of program like that we can start to where a guy can come into the house for a month or so without having to worry about paying rent and get a job and then have a certain amount of money they have to pay after that for a shorter period of time and be mandated to save some money, almost like a halfway house, but without the correctional environment.
Yeah.
And help these guys get on their feet because I feel like it's hopeless for a lot of people like us, man.
Well, yeah, it is. And again, these guys are coming home with 1, 3, 5 years where they have not used that entire time. And you can't, you want to be like,
Yeah.
dude, just go drink a beer and go show up there. But in your heart, you
no.
can't do that. But
Right.
it's so fucked up that like, that's how the system operates. That's how insurance operates.
It's terrible. But
no,
like I said, we can change that. And there's I'm not trying to be all super religious or drive that point home, but I feel like with God anything's possible. And if you're doing God's work, He's gonna find a way. So that's gonna change. Nothing's gonna happen overnight. But I feel like the future of our community, our state, our country is there's gonna be something for people like that to better their life in the future. And I just wish it was sooner. So I came home, I got drunk, and it's just spiraled out and got worse and worse and worse. And there's a lot of stories in between, but we don't have I'm not going to drag it all the way out. The point is, it got so bad that I had my own apartment. I had isolated in that apartment for 3 months. I was 170 pounds, which is a normal weight for somebody, I guess. But for me, I'm 250 sitting here in front of you. So at 170, I look like a helium balloon on a string.
Yeah.
Like I completely failed at my mission of being a good father, the only thing I ever wanted to be. And I wasn't even allowed around my kids except for at my mom's house. And every day I'd promise myself to get on the bus to go see them. And every day I would miss the last bus. And I got to a place where I was contemplating how to get an insurance policy on my life and figure out a way to kill myself and make it look like an accident, so that that was where I was. And I said a prayer, and a course of events happened, and it led me to a recovery meeting, which led me to a sober living house, which led me to a manager of that house telling me to pretend for a month that everything I knew to be fact might be wrong, and just be an open book and pretend I knew nothing, and try to think a different way and live a different way. And I did. I basically just surrendered, man. I just surrendered that my way didn't work, that I was never going to be a kingpin, that maybe I was an alien, maybe I'm an alien, maybe these other people are just good people and they want to help me. And it's not, it doesn't have to be the way that it's always been. And that's an uphill battle too, because I spent 2 years in sober living. Like 2 years in sober living, and I spent another year with roommates, and I've spent another year with roommates, and I've only had my own place for a couple of years now. But after 2 years of staying clean and maintaining being clean and not committing crimes and doing the next right thing and living an honest life, within 2 years of doing that, the kids that I wasn't allowed to see, I was awarded custody of those kids. Like, so to go from 2 years ago, I feel like I need to kill myself to get life insurance to pay for my children that I'm never going to be a father to a judge telling me, well, these children are now your responsibility, and we feel confident that you can take care of them and be a good person to them, is mind blowing to me, you know?
Yeah.
But it takes work. We can't just like sit around and keep doing the same thing we always did. We have to realize, like, there might be a year of sitting still and working at a job where you're only making $10, $11 an hour. You know, it might take a year of going to counseling every week and staying in a sober living house and saving your money. Like, it's not something that just happens. Like, for people like us that have been homeless or incarcerated, like, we can't just expect things to come quickly. We have to be willing to be.
Well, it's always been like that's why we got high, was the instant gratification. That's why we got high, was the instant rush, the I want it and I want it now. And so that, I mean, mentally that carries over into all aspects of your life, and you have to reprogram your mind
Yeah.
to understand anything. I say this every episode. My daddy used to have a saying, and it was, anything worth having is worth working for. And it's so simple like that, it just always stuck with me, because for years I wanted it and I wanted it now. I mean, my charges were burglary. If I needed it fixed, I'm booting your door in and I'm coming in and taking a jewelry box. And so to reprogram your mind to understand that, you know, and now everything that I have, like from the custody of my kids to the house that I live in, the vehicles we drive, all the way down to my cell phone, to this amazing little podcast setup that I have here. I worked for that, you know? And so it gives you a sense of accomplishment and achievement and self-worth. And yeah, nothing comes quick. You have to work for all of it.
Nothing comes quick, and nothing's free. My teenagers
nothing's free.
My teenagers roll their eyes if they're thinking that they ever get to thinking anything's free. I just ask them, like, yo, what's free? And they roll their eyes like, nothing, Dad. I'm like, yeah, like, it's going to cost something. It's either going to cost sweat equity. It's going to cost you
air's free.
Yeah.
Get all you can get. And they'll find a way to tax that soon enough. Don't worry.
So yeah, man. I mean, that's kind of my story. It's kind of the condensed version.
Well, let's talk about something real quick, because this doesn't get talked about a whole lot on here, because I haven't met. There hasn't been a whole lot of guys who immediately got custody upon coming home, and I got custody of my children coming home. So what was that like having? You had what, 2 sons? I saw them. Are they twins? They're not twins, are they?
No. So I had 2. I have 3 now, and I even have custody of the youngest one, which is unheard of as a father and as a felon. And
in Ohio, yeah.
So, and I say this all the time. And now you're asking the question, like, how?
Yeah.
And the answer is, I don't know. I just stayed the course, and somehow the universe or God or whatever you want to call it lined everything up perfectly for it just to happen.
Okay.
So if someone says, "Well, how do you go about doing that?" Well, A, you're going to need a lawyer because once again, nothing's free, and those things definitely aren't free.
No.
But but B, if you're doing the next right thing, what I mean by the next right thing is like I'm doing the right thing now, but am I going to be doing the right thing tomorrow, or in the next moment, or in the next week?
And is my mind focused on continuing to do? Yeah.
Yeah, if you're doing the next right thing, somehow it always works out in your favor. So I'm not going to say every dad that's a felon and an ex-drug addict is going to have custody of their children. I don't want. It's possible, but at the very minimum, we're able to be present fathers and supportive fathers, and our children will know us.
Yeah.
Like that's worst case scenario. If you're doing the next right thing, you're going to be in your kids' lives, and you're going to have to keep going. And there's a good chance if it's something, if you want it and you're willing to work for it, you're going to accomplish it. So if being the custodial parent is something that you want and you're willing to put in the work to get it, I can't explain it, man. Somehow the universe will move mountains for you to make it. As long as you do the first couple steps of the job, God will take care of the rest.
Yeah, he always. I've become very spiritual, and over the last, I'd say, couple years, not religious. I pride my hat around church trauma. I'm not. I am not a religious guy. I've got a brother who's a pastor that kind of threw me for a loop, but we won't go there. But as far as being spiritual, I have learned that you're right. The more you just trust and do the next best thing, and you trust the process, trust in what's going to happen, trust that that no matter what, even if it doesn't work out the way you want it to, it's still working out the way that it's supposed to.
Hey.
Like that's the biggest thing, you know. And I always say there's a lesson in everything, and you're right, man. You just have to trust that the powers that be know what they're doing. The universe, God, whatever you believe in, knows what it's doing, and you're going to get what you need. Not maybe what you deserve, not what you want, but you're going to get what you need.
Amen.
So you got so you have custody. You've got two athletes, right? They both play football. I saw your boy got some award. What was that award?
My oldest boy, it was called the Glue Award. It was
the team together. Yeah.
Yeah, it was the first year they gave that award out, and we live in a small town, like a real small town. It's a village, and when we came here a few years ago, they were considering getting rid of the football program entirely because there wasn't enough kids to play. And that year and the following year, my oldest son went around and recruited the football team, basically.
Oh, wow.
And like, yeah,
that's
and he's
super cool.
Yeah, real cool. And he's athletically, he's probably not like the most athletic kid on the team, but he's like team captain material.
He's got the heart.
Material. He teaches everybody respect and kindness and like stuff that honestly makes me more proud than if he was just like the best receiver on the football team.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, because those are all areas that can carry over in life, and those are, dude. You can teach how to have a good heart, but ultimately having a good heart, it's just at your core. You know, having those types of abilities. You can learn it, but it's at your core. So you got those two. Then you got custody of your youngest now, who is 3, correct?
Yeah, Phoenix Michael is my youngest boy, and my middle son. He plays basketball, football. Both my older kids play all sports, and I was never an athlete. I probably could have been in track and field because I was really fast if there were lights or a dog behind me, but but I didn't. I didn't do any of that. So to see my kids be involved in all these, if you're a parent, I encourage you to get your children involved in some type of athletics or anything that's bigger than themselves is going to be game changing for the kids.
Yeah. And so let's go ahead. You guys.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, so let's kind of move over to Hilltop Recovery real quick too. You did business development for them. I want to talk about what it's been like to go from you were just promoted to director of operations. So how long have you been over there? What was your role, and what's your role going to be moving forward?
Okay, so Hilltop Recovery is it's a sober living community that's partnered with Armada Recovery of Akron. So I've been with Armada or Akron House for 3 years, give or take. And originally, I was with the treatment program, and I did outreach, business development. I've been a group facilitator. I've done admissions. I've done everything inside of that place in that facility. I've seen every aspect of it. Well, now I don't technically work for the treatment program anymore. I moved on to the sober living program that's partnered with Armada Recovery. Um, and that is it looks super promising for a lot of people. It's like a 67 person facility spread out between like 5 houses. There's men's houses, there's women's houses. um, what operations looks like there is like organizing events, uh, outside meetings like HA, NA, CA, celebrate recovery, or also smart recovery, whatever a person wants to do, because there's not just one path to recovery. Like what I do works for me, but that might not work for someone else.
And
Like,
there's don't do
yeah,
any of it. Theory of whole
yeah,
self change. I know that's kind of
yeah,
but you do what works for you. Like I just found working on myself and healing my traumas and mending relationships and learning how to love myself, that was a game changer for me, and that's all I needed. I live a beautiful, amazing life. That's all I needed. I don't need to
yeah.
go, and I've got tons of buddies that I reach out to every day that are in NA AA. We talk. I can call them with any of my problems. I do what works for me. And just like you said, you do what works for you.
Ultimately, like you said, learning about yourself and the things that trigger you or the things that make you tick. Uh, some people call it like shadow work, like just
Yeah,
finding out the dark side of who you are and like embracing that thing and change that
yeah.
thing. Uh, Also, having a good network. I feel like a lot of reasons the 12 step fellowships are so helpful is because there's so many other people to communicate with. Like you're not in those kinds of fellowships, but I get you have a huge network of friends you can call on.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So
I've built a massive network of people to talk to over the years. So
yeah, and that's so it's, like you said, it's like a willingness to change and also a willingness to learn. Like one of the things I'm implementing as operations director at Hilltop is a weekly like crash course in budgeting. Like it seems like such a simple thing, but when I came in, I didn't know how to like
no,
pay
it's
bills
yeah.
or like so that's not something that you'll necessarily learn in a treatment program because they teach you about like triggers and trauma and like stuff that's important. But like if we're gonna get better, we have to treat a whole person. So I
Yeah.
want to like weekly or bi-weekly go in and just kind of do an outline of like and a real budget, not something like if you watch an online budget, they'll put up like a monthly income of $10,000. Not everybody's has that, man. A lot of us coming in, we're trying to stretch $1,000.
Bro, yeah. If even
Yes,
that. A couple
yeah.
hundred. Yeah.
So I want to teach some of that stuff. I just want to get some guys involved in the community, volunteering, and some of the ladies just going out and like helping other people other than themselves, because I believe that ultimately is the most rewarding thing. That's nothing's giving me
Oh
more
yeah.
joy than doing something for someone else.
Well, nothing will give you that self-worth and that self-love. That's the number one ingredient in learning to love yourself is giving of yourself. That's
Yeah, and basically, if anyone needs any help, I don't know if is it all right for me to announce my phone number and people can just call any.
what I'm gonna do is yeah, you can on here put your phone number, your Facebook, whatever, even the name of your company, whatever plugs you want to plug on here. But I do need you to send me an email over with your company, your name. Then
Okay,
I'll put it under the plugs link on the website. I've got a bunch of work I got to do on there today. It looks like my
okay.
kid's game just got canceled, so I'll be doing that this afternoon.
So,
Um,
so I guess
but
the
yeah,
only
send all that over to me, and I'll put direct links to your website up there, your employer, and people can reach out and get in touch with you.
right on. So I guess I'm not really plugging anything other than if you need me, I can help you. It doesn't have to be to get into a recovery home. It could just be someone to talk to. It can be like maybe needing connected to like a food bank or some other resource of that nature.
Yeah.
If you do need to get into help with like addiction treatment or some type of sober living, I definitely will always help with that as well. And I work for Hilltop Recovery Homes. We're partnered with Armada Recovery of Akron. And my name is Gary Baddeley. I'm easy to find on Facebook. There's about 12 of me on there. I'm the real account's the one that doesn't look like he's doing drugs and hiding in a basement. And my
I
phone
have to
number.
ask, was that an old account?
Yeah, there's about 12 old accounts, but you can tell the one that's
That's
the
the
me
good one.
now. Yeah, it's real easy to decipher which one's what, you know.
Yeah.
And
I
there's
actually, hey, real quick, I've got Michael Gately on here. I was able to go live. In
the
fact, I think
drummer.
it's yeah, you've got a bunch of people on here that I don't know, so it's broadcasting with you in it too. So they're seeing you. But
Okay,
this guy's on here now. He wants your phone number. I'm not feeling. I'm not going to put that on Facebook, but reach out to
I
him.
will. I do. It's
You
my
can go
phone
back and
number.
see all these comments after we get off live. But
Okay, and then my phone number is 33.
right on.
Right on.
And yeah, as long as you're willing or okay with it, like I said, I have no problem putting your phone number up there to anybody out there that wants to get in contact with me. Obviously, look me up on Facebook. It's Christopher Tackett. I only openly share my phone number after I have a conversation with somebody or after I kind of see where their heart's at, because Gary, as you know, some
Yeah,
guys are just looking for a hand me out, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's part of the process. But
yeah.
yeah, reach out to Gary, reach out to me. So tell me tell me what life's like nowadays. Now that you're tell me like what your daily grind is like. What makes Gary tick now?
Life is better than any I've ever known. It's hard to put into words because it's not something I ever thought I would deserve or I'd be able to live. But
Yeah,
life today is I have a home to live in. It's fairly comfortable. All my boys are with me. They have everything they need and most of what they want. I'm able to have a reliable vehicle that I can get into and start it up and drive to the grocery store or a doctor's appointment if I need to. I'm able to be a reliable employee today, a reliable father, a reliable son. Um, Today, I'm someone that you can trust in your home, that they're not going to steal from you or die on your floor from a drug overdose. It's there's like monetary and material rewards that come with changing your life, but the main thing I can say is I'm able to be okay with myself today. Like that's the biggest thing in my life is being able to be okay with myself today. We talked about statistics about going back to jail at 80 something percent in 10 years. I haven't been in a pair of handcuffs since July of 2012.
that's awesome. Oh, you
So
guys. Oh, so you were locked up right around the last time was the same time I was. I
yeah,
came home in 13.
yeah. So I
Oh, good for you, man. That's and dude, I fucking love like when I get on here and I talk to guys that have 7, 8, 9, 10 years home, because and most of the people that have been on here do.
yeah.
But those are the people I want to spotlight on, because you're doing it, man. Like you're living the life. You're what's the phrase I'm looking for? You're practicing what you preach, and
I know.
that's what it all boils down to. So
Right on.
what word do you have for anybody that's out there struggling?
Just don't give up. Be still. Trust the process. Reach out to any resources that you might have. Reach out to other people that have been in your shoes. Uh, Let somebody else show you the way. Don't think that you have to do everything by yourself, and definitely don't be arrogant enough to think that you know the way on your own, because
Yeah.
that screwed me up. As I know it screwed a lot of other people up. I had a recovery mentor tell me one time that he hasn't never met anyone that was too stupid to get this and get better, but he has met a lot of people that were too smart.
Yeah.
So, like, just be willing to humble yourself and ask for help. That's basically what it comes down to. As long as you're willing to be still and have faith in yourself, have faith in a higher power, if that's what it is, have faith in your fellow man and woman, like, and just keep pushing forward, and it will get better as long as you don't throw in the towel.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You're right, man. I think the the biggest thing that people don't realize when it boils down to recovery is the one main ingredient that you need is love. You
Yeah.
need to learn to love yourself. You need to learn to love other people. You need to learn to love your dark side and your shadow and your past. You need to, you need to love. Without love, there's nothing there. And so, anything else you want to tell everybody?
No, that's about it, man. Other than I want to tell you, I'm super excited to have met you, and I look forward to having lots more conversations. And
No, we're gonna stay in contact because I've got some plans, some stuff I'm working on, some stuff I want to get done, and I'm starting to build a network of guys that I think would be detrimental and integral in like getting things off the ground, and that I'm gonna have to because I'm doing this blind, man. I'm literally I don't know what I'm doing, so it's just kind of day by day, wherever God or the universe or whatever leads me. That's where I'm walking. So
right on.
But yeah, I appreciate you, man. Gary, I think you're doing a great thing, man. And I told you, you've been home so you said what, 2012? So you're going on what, 11 years?
2013, I came home. So I've been home over 10 years now.
Over 10 years. That's amazing, man. My hat's off to you. I know September I was home for 10 years. So I know what it takes. I know the struggles, the headaches, the tears, the hurt, and honestly, on the other end of it, the awesomeness and how beautiful life is on the back end of it. That's what I try to focus on now. And you're a light amongst your peers. You are doing the thing, and I just encourage you to keep doing it, man. Like you've got all kinds of people on here just saying how proud they are of you. So I always not that this reads anything at social media, but I love getting on and. You probably see me like over here checking periodically. Just I love seeing when people are in your corner. So Gary, I love you. We will. I'll touch base with you probably like this week. We'll just
just give me a call, man. I'm probably I added you to my support network without even asking you, so you're going to be on my phone call rotation.
Okay. Hey, that's cool, man. Hey, and we could get group chats linked up, and if you know any of if you've got a success story or somebody that's struggling or whatever, and you want to get shit in my way, yeah, man, I'm always available. So, all right, guys, I will talk to you.
Yep, I'll talk to you soon, Chris.
Yeah, see you guys
later on.